My name is John Mathieson. I'm a cinematographer, and I've just shot Gladiator II for Ridley Scott.
Ready to roll!
Things have got more technical and faster and easier in visual effects. They can make more intricate stuff quicker, and they can go to town a bit more. But for me, camera's a camera still. The language he uses is the same. This was going to be a lot more visual effects heavy, which is all the way through the industry now. The first film, he was a bit more suspicious of it. And he was, more build the sets, fight real tigers, shoot real arrows, great fun. I mean, there are improvements in technology and some of the things we did better because we did once before. But the Senate was there, the Colosseum was there, the Forum was there. So everything's where we left it. Camera comes on quite late. I came in the back in the office and they started already with something, and Neil Kilbold and Ridley were talking about a sea battle in Wazirzad, which is on the edge of the Sahara. And I thought, I'm in the wrong room here. It's like, Sahara's not known for its coastline. And so they were going to shoot this battle dry and then add the water later. That would not have happened 20 years ago. Those ability to use CGI, now it really embraces it. Our character has become a bit of a leader of the gladiators. He's the one who speaks out, and he conquered the rhino. And he's getting a bit too powerful. They wanted to kill him off. So they devise a sea battle in the Colosseum. They flood the Colosseum so they can have this sea battle. It's got these fun little pantomime-type islands, and they come out in these mini little galleys, and they go at each other. I mean, it's my favorite sequence, even though for me, lighting and things, I didn't really do much. I missed a few bits and pieces. But as a scene that's come together, it's totally unique to anything you'll see. It's incredibly colourful and contrasty, and the boats are all different colours. The gladiators are kind of pantomimed up. It's totally over the top. The boats come out and they do this dancey dance, Lucius, having been a man of the sea, grown up by the sea, he helms the boat and does a double take and disables one and turns back on it, rams it and makes a mess of them. And then they jump across and all start throwing each other in the water. In the water are, sharks. Really wants to shoot it as much as he can all at once. So you put lots of cameras in and you position them around the arena because the boats are moving. Not all the cameras will be on all the time, but the boats will come to you. The action will come to you. They're plotted out to meet bits of action as they come towards you. It's like going shopping. Did you get the rice? I'm getting the pasta. You have to just talk to everyone, all the operators, say, don't worry about that. He's going to get that. The good thing about doing it all at once is that it's in continuity. So the boat's burning, walls are being broken, guys are falling off. If you cut to another shot and the guy's fallen off in the wide shot and you cut to a close-up pull, he's still there and he falls off. You can't use that shot. But since everything's running at the same time, when he falls off in the wide, he falls off in the close-up as well. So we shot it to dry again on these things called SPMTs, which are multi-wheeled, multi-steering bases. It's like putting a thing on a massive skateboard with lots of wheels on it. And the guy walks along next to it and he's got a joystick and he drives it. The good thing about that is that if you do anything on water drifts the whole time. You set the camera up, set the boat up, put the guy in the water, and just the slightest breeze, everything goes like that. It's really time-consuming water. So we did it dry, and then we moved the tank in Malta, which is probably the largest tank in Europe. It's 300 by 400 feet, and it can be up to 2 meters deep. They put the Colosseum in there, but only the ring edge of it, and the royal box, and some bleachers. Then we shot the whole other half, which where the boats interact with the water. If you think most of the time, you're fighting on the boat with, and you're on the top. When you fall in the water, then you need the water. People get knocked off. There's a whole lot of stuntmen pushing a bunch of cardboard boxes about the size of a van around, trying to get it under that guy when he falls off so he lands on something. He doesn't take a dive onto the Colosseum floor. But then you go into the wet tank, and then you do what you couldn't do on the dry tank. Story-wise, there's only a few shots in the water, but they took maybe twice as long just to give you some idea how difficult water is to work in. They had to remember what they did in the other one to fall in the right place to get the right continuity. For me and the cameras, when you're shooting that dry, as long as you're under the water, because the water's going to go put over your head, you're okay. You can put the cameras where you want, rather than being on a raft and coming up alongside and doing all that. Really, down to the ADs and the coordination, the special effects, the visual effects, it's a fantastic, and Ridley, of course, who's overseen, it's a fantastic scene that's been put together. We had a lot of cameras. You've got this bowl shape of people around you all going screaming, shouting in shadows. I think the thing is just to stay back with the camera and reach in rather than go in very wide and very close, because then you lose everything. Because I was shooting you head to toe. But if I shot you very close, well, I see you and see much of the room. If I come from the back, I actually see what's behind you. And that's very important, to feel like you're there and to feel you're always in the action. And then we've got these amazing cranes these days that we didn't have 25 years ago, which are stabilized cranes. They're telescopic. They can reach to 75 feet or more, but we use the shorter ones. We lay big tracks down as well. Some of the tracks are 100 foot long or more. The shooting of it is, it's observing and then planning. You don't write lists of what is going to happen, because there's so many things going on. You might say, well, this guy goes from the front to the back. Well, let's put a camera that goes from the front to the back down the side. Well, no, wouldn't it be better if you were sitting at the front and he ran to you? Those decisions only come by watching it and having a lot of experience. A lot of very experienced operators. They plan, they rehearse, the stunts rehearse, special effects guys to try the boats, and we follow their lead, really. And so the language of the film from the first one to this one hasn't changed much. Cameras are still cameras, lenses are still lenses, but we had more cameras and more visual effects possibilities. With lenses, we got some Sphero Primos, but we never use them because they're prime lenses. We like zooms because they're just quicker. That might sound like a bit of a Philistine. When you're working that quick and your crane's up in the air, last thing you want to bring down is bring it down, pull the map box off, pull the motors off, pull the lens out, change the bridge plate, put another lens back on, rebalance it, put the motors back on, put the map box back on. And that can happen quite quickly. With a zoom lens, you just go zip. So it's all about the zooms, I'm afraid. Much as I admire cinematographers who choose the right lens, that's not what we're doing here. You've got a lot of people who've been up since 2:30 in the morning. You've got to be ready. You've got to be quick. You've got to be on it. All the cameras are standards. I went to Panavision and said, what do you got lots of? And they said, Alexa Mini LF. So I said, right, we'll have those, because I didn't want a mixed bag of stuff. Because if you are all over the Colosseum, everything's got to be compatible. You can't have, this camera has this lens, or this one has this bridge. No. Oh, it's a much nicer, I know it's a nicer look, but look at the time. You don't have that pleasure. Doesn't mean we don't take great care, but it was zoom lenses, wide zooms. They've got a lot better. The zooms are much more sharp than they were a few years ago. They've got a better range. They're faster. These modern lenses made by computer are much better optically. It goes in straight, but if you give it a deep aperture as well, you'll get really good black shadows. And I wanted that. If you're shooting a shot with a lot of depth in, close up of me, and your aperture's too wide, that becomes mush. You want to see a bit of detail back there. You don't want to just have swimming out of focus, nothing. So shooting deep with standard one camera, Alexa LFs, and just zoom lenses, that was it. Just simple. But I have to say, it looks great. We just didn't agonize over different lenses and flares and Zeiss and Cook and this. Yeah. It was mixed stuff, but as long as you got the range, long and wide zooms, that was it. I saw it dry a lot because, the water comes later. I saw the dry stuff and that looked great because you can imagine it because it's all there. All the action's there. It's just, you just have to ignore the bottom of the frame where the water is. I didn't really see it put together until I started grading, doing all the colors on the film. I think it's very important as a cinematographer to actually, make sure that the images that you want to get end up on the screen. Since we're grading as we go, we're doing that on site. Things are pretty much mapped out. Quite often we have a sort of dusk and a night and a dawn scene, and the night scene goes away. Then you're left with a dawn and a dusk together, and they've got to be a timeline. So you've got to shift one of them away from the other. You follow the colors by the story arc. This scene looks too like that scene. You want it to be somewhere else. You've got to bend it a bit. I grade films fairly quickly, and I did probably about 5 days on it total. It is a film of very few looks. It's, sunny Rome. Well, it's the Numidium, which is very dry and white desert, hazy skies. Everything's just dust, and it's dry, it's dusty, it's sage colors, it's everything looks a bit burnt. And then you go to Rome, which is color. And so it went from this dusty, dry, arid nothing to Rome, which is more colorful and opulent and kitsch, camp, gaudy, vulgar. Then you have your night scenes, which are candlelit or gorgeous ambers. They kind of always stay in the same zone. The violet ones I made a bit more lemon yellow. The warmer, softer ones, the more intimate ones, they're kind of a bit more orange and flattering. That was about it. Not a lot of that in when we shot with a DIT on set when we were shooting.